All right, hello, welcome to our first video. Today we are just gonna get started by making that very first and influential Pong game. We're gonna do it in a few stages where today our goal is to create the paddles and the ball and kind of hit them back and forth. Next stage, we will create a backdrop so that it maybe looks a little nicer. And then finally, we will add a score and some more variables to help keep track of the game and really make it like a fun video game. So first thing we need to do is after we've logged in, my screen looks like this, and most important place for us is to go to this folder up here. I click on that folder and the My Stuff folder appears where everything gets saved in here. So you can just go back, see inside when I want to keep adding to my code or my project, but I'm going to create a new project. So it opens up a few things. On the left side, I have all my blocks, my code. Let me move over a little bit. And it's broken down into categories, and we'll slowly go through some of these and learn about them. I can do a lot of things in a lot of different ways. So it's good to kind of know, how all the blocks work, because I can do things lots of different ways. This middle screen is where I add my code, and on the right side is the stage, where we change the background and the action happens. So first thing, we're not going to use the cat, so I'm just going to put him in the garbage. Come down here and choose a sprite. I'm going to choose the paddle, which is kind of way on the bottom. I can search across the top for different things, but here we go. So I have a paddle. I'm going to do the left side first. So an important thing to notice or know about Scratch, unlike Scratch Junior, is that this whole scene or the whole stage is on an XY coordinate. And that means every location can be found by describing where on the X it is, the left and right, and where on the Y it is, up and down. So let's pause for a moment and just have a quick jump into that. All right, so this is what the stage of Scratch looks like with the coordinate plane on it. As you can see, there are numbers and an X and a Y axis. The X is going left to right, and the Y is going up and down. And there's a number attached to every location. So if I want Scratch to go right here, I have to figure out what is the coordinate on X. So I just go down. So X equals 10 is how we write it in Scratch. And I go across to Y, and Y also equals 10. So I would say I want to move Scratch to X equals 10 and Y equals 10. If I was then I wanted Scratch to go over here, I do the same thing. I look on the X-axis, and you can see now it's -9 because it's below 0. And on the Y-axis, it is 3. So X equals -9, Y equals 3. That's how we kind of describe the locations on Scratch. Okay, so where this is right now, we can see these numbers on the X and Y axis kind of change and tells me exactly where it is. So if I want this paddle I gotta click on it. If I want it to be right here, we can see those numbers change. Y is 3 right now. If I move it up, Y is gonna go up high. So I'm gonna move it kind of where I want it to be on the left side. My other blocks will change too, but as I can see, this is facing the wrong direction, right? So I got to get it kind of set up. So first thing I'm going to do is go to the events, which is how I start my game. And when the green flag is clicked, everything starts. So when the green flag is clicked now, I want to create like all the beginning conditions. I want everything to go where it goes in the beginning. Like the game resets and things go to their right place. So this is not right. I need to move it around because it's facing the wrong direction, but I easily have a block for that. I go to motion and I'm going to pull out point in the direction. Let me make that a little bit bigger. I'm not sure if you can see it better now. Point in the direction of 90. 90 is left to right, well, to the right. But if I just click on that, I can spin it down, and now I can see it's kind of up and down. So that's good. Point in the direction of 180. Click the green flag. Boom, there it is. He's a little bit, I'd want him to be closer to the wall, not super, super close, because I'm going to need some of that space in the background later as like the score. So I'm just going to move it to about there, say. And that should be pretty good. My numbers change. So I'm going to say go to that spot. And it already plugs the numbers in where it is, minus 221. Y is minus 9. I know that Y at 0 would be right in the middle, so I'm going to just put 0 in there. Green flag. There we go, right there. So that's good. Next thing I need to do is make him move up and down. Now this is going to be a 2-player game, so I can't really use the arrow keys, or 1 player can, but that seems not so fair. So if this person's on the left side, I'm going to choose some buttons on the left side of my keyboard. Yeah, we're using an iPad. It will be a little bit different later. I'm using a computer right now just so I can record, but I have to use the keys over there. Anyway, so I'm going to go to my events, and actually, no, I'm going to do it slightly different than that. I'm going to go to the controls and put a forever loop here because I want this to always be happening. Everything that happens inside the forever loop is now my game. The game starts, it goes to those points, and then it's done with that. Now I have forever. And I'm going to do it if then, and this is a really, really important coding concept that we use, this if then statement. That's called a conditional. If one thing happens, I want something else to happen, right? If my character in a game gets punched, I want him to lose energy points, or the character dies if something happens. So this is how we really, really make our game dynamic and interactive. So I'm going to put it if then. So what do I want to happen? If I push an arrow key, I want him to go up. If I push a different arrow key, I want the paddle to go down. So I'm going to go to sensing. And I could do this a few different ways, but we'll do it this way today. And I have my sensing. So if the game senses I'm pushing the arrow, it's going to move. So I'm going to just pop that. And anytime we see these kind of shapes in here, I can put new blocks in there. So if the space key is pressed, then something should happen. I'm going to change that, and I have up, down, and all the letters. I'm going to go with W and S because those are kind of on the left side of the keyboard, and those are sort of common ones. If the W is pressed, then I am going to go back to motion. And I can do the motion in a lot of different ways, but I know that he's going up and down only, and I know that's the y-axis, so I'm going to change the y-axis. So I'm going to go change y by some amount. And these numbers, we have to just experiment. I'm going to put let's try a 5. And we'll see if that's too much movement or too little, and we can change that. Okay? So if the W is pressed, change Y by 5. It'll go up. Let's check it out. I'm going to hit the green arrow. I push the W. Yeah, it goes up. Seems fine now. As we play the game, we might realize it's too fast or too slow. And I'm just going to repeat that. So I'm going to get an event again. Sorry, I'm going to get a control, do another if then. It's still in the forever loop. So it's always going to be reading this command. I go back to my sensing if, change the W to S because S is right below. If S is pressed, then I'm going to move. I'm going to change Y. And now I need to use a negative number because I want it to go 5 less. So it was going up the Y numbers were getting bigger. Now I want to subtract 5 from it. So I'm going to subtract 5. Okay, so let's try it. I push the green flag, goes back to the middle, W goes up, S goes down, W goes up, S goes down. I can hold that key and kind of keep it moving. Looks good. Okay. So what I need to do now is just create the exact same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to go ahead and make another paddle. Let's see if that's in sports. No. I didn't search paddle that way, but there's a line. I'm going to get a paddle again. And now it's here. And we really just need to create the exact same conditions just on the right side. So there are kind of 2 things I can do. For you, you can kind of practice what you just did and try to remember all the steps and think about them, and then go look back to see if you're correct. That would be a good idea to practice coding. So I want the exact same things to happen on the right side. So I know one of those X numbers will change, but everything else should be the same, and I'll change the arrow keys. So that's one way for you to practice right now and see if you can do it. I can just copy and paste, which is the easiest way. If I was an expert coder, I wouldn't want to type it all out again because that takes a long time. So copying and pasting is obviously easier. On your iPad, you just kind of click on the top and it gets colored in yellow. I can do Command C and then Command V to paste it. So if I do it right here, I go back to my thing and the whole thing just comes up. Now, if I press the green flag, what do you think is going to happen? This one is it's going to basically disappear. It's going to go right on top of this one. Every time I press W, they're both going to go up and both going to go down. We won't see them at all. So I do need to change this one a little bit. So I'm going to kind of do like a little bit of the opposite. The numbers here are for the left side, so I want it the right side. So instead of X at -221, I'm just going to do +221 and 0. So now if I push that, it should go to that exact spot. I'm not going to use the W keys because I want each player to use different buttons. So I'll choose, I could use arrows, but I'll choose O and L just so that everyone's using letters. I don't want one person to say, hey, not fair, you had the arrows, I had to use WS. If I win this game, I don't want any complaints about it. So I'm going to choose O and L. And changes by -5 and 5. So here we go. You won't be able to see my fingers doing it, but I'm doing W and S, O and L. They're going, they're trying to hit the ball. But we don't have a ball right now, so let's make a ball. So I go to my new sprite, choose the sprite, I'm going to choose the ball. There it is. We want our starting condition. I would like the ball to start right in the middle. So of course, you know that's going to be X0, Y0. So I'm going to go to event, green flag is clicked, motion, go to 0, 0. Click the green flag, everyone starts out in the middle, perfect. So now I have a few things I can do here. If the ball starts moving, it's going to kind of go left to right and just back and forth like that. It's not so exciting. So what I want to do is kind of, you won't really be able to see this happening because it's a ball, but just like we spun the paddle, I'm going to spin the ball a little bit so it's kind of facing towards my head on the screen or that corner. So I'm going to say point in the direction of 45 is half of 90, so I'll choose 45. You can experiment a little with that later, but 45 is, I think, a very good number. So now the ball is pointing in the direction of the top right-hand corner. And that's just how the game's going to start. I'm going to go to my controls, and I want a forever loop now because I want the ball to forever be moving until the game stops or something like that. So what I want forever to happen is go back to motion. And instead of change X or change Y, the ball is moving through the X and through the Y. So it can't just change X or Y because that'll just make it go up or down or left or right. But we want it to be going in all directions. So I'm going to say move 10 steps. And that is just like 10 units, whatever direction it's facing. Because it's now facing that way, it'll go up that way. All right, so let's try it. Red flag to stop. I'm going to push the green. Oh, you can see what happened. Let's stop. It goes that way, but it just disappears off the screen. So I want to kind of fix that. I like it better up here. So there is a block for that called if on edge, bounce. So when it hits the wall, it changes directions and bounces back. So here we go. Let me move my head. I go to the green flag. It starts off and now it's bouncing off the wall and looks good. I'm going to stop and go back to the green flag because one thing I noticed, and I'm going to correct this right now, as soon as I hit the green flag, everything goes back to its starting point, but the game happens like so quick. I wanted to maybe have a little bit of a wait where the ball's in the middle, and you know, you kind of get set and stare at your opponent and make them intimidated. So there is a simple wait button. Not wait until, wait 1 second. So now the ball is going to go to the middle. It's going to point in that direction. It's going to wait a second and then start moving. So let's see how that looks. So green flag, ball goes there, then stops. If it's there, goes back, and then the game starts. So it looks good. Now we need a little bit more stuff to happen. We need the ball to kind of bounce when it hits the paddle, and then you'll be actually playing the game. So there are, again, a few ways we can do it. Sometimes people like to just build all the code into this long chain, or we can kind of create like a new strand of code. I'll create a new strand just so it doesn't get so big, because then it's harder to find mistakes maybe when it's so long. I know this block of code has the ball moving really well. And now this block is to make the paddle work. So if the paddle doesn't work, I know I just need to change this. So when the green flag is clicked, game's going to start. And I'm going to again put a forever loop because this game always happens. And I want a kind of motion, or sorry, not a motion, sensor. If the ball hits that paddle, it's going to do something. So we know we're going to have an if then. If, and I need to put something in here, if the ball hits, it should do something. So in my sensing, touching, and it says the mouse pointer, it's very big. Let's go down a little bit here so everyone can see. So I can change that if it's hitting paddle 1, then what should it do? It should turn. So 15 degrees, this is kind of like a circle. 0 is no turn, 15 is a little, 90 would be like exactly to the right, 180 is exact opposite. So that's a little tricky. I'm just going to tell you 180 is like a half turn going in the exact opposite direction. So if it's touching paddle 1, turn in the opposite direction, I'm going to do the same exact thing. I can get another if-then statement. Just put it right under there then. If touching paddle 2, then same thing. Turn 180. I'm going to make that a little bit smaller and just pull them up here. So this should pretty much be about it. Let's see how it goes. The ball goes in the middle. It starts moving. It hits and goes. I'll be the OL. Get up there. All right, so now you have a Pong game. You can see there are some things we might change. We might say, oh, that ball is so big, the paddles are too big or small or whatever. We can make it easier, harder. If we get more advanced, we can create levels. You play like this for a little while, then you get to the next level and the ball moves faster or the paddle moves slower. We can create all those things doing what we just did now. So you might, if you finish this and have a little time, maybe change the size of the ball, change the speed of the ball by how many steps it's taking and see how that influences things. But yeah, the next step is we're going to create the background. So maybe it looks like a tennis court or something like that, and create the score. So hope your Pong game is a success, and I look forward to playing you in Pong.